Start streaming. Here we go. Let's hopefully we're on stream. And link to the chat. There we go. There we go. We are live. Sweet. There we are. We're going to wait for some people to show up. That's why I'm talking. There's a little link. What are we doing? Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy, Momo. Hello. Okay, tweet this out. Okay. And Facebook. I hate that we have to do this live. But c'est la vie. Hi, everybody. Okay. Posted to Facebook. All right, it's posting to Facebook. I have Momo Fluff on my face because Momo was here. All right. Hello, everyone. All right. Good morning. Oh, what? Where's everybody watching from? So I can get a sense. Yeah, there's some people here tonight who can't make the 11 o'clock ones, hence the delayed time. Sound is low. Okay. Let's see if I can increase the sound here. Is that better? Is that better? Maybe I can. Will I get feedback if I play it? There we go. All right. Is that any better? We are live. I sound okay here, but let me see if I can boost my microphone. Mike, is that a mute? I don't know. Did I disappear for a bit? Let's see if I can do something about this sound. Recording devices. Sound still the same. Levels. Okay, I'm cranking it up now. Is it better now? Yeah, I know I'm postponing Flash too. That should be louder. It's coming in as louder. Yeah, okay. It sounds okay on my end, but I'll try to boost the sound. I jacked it up from 75 to 88, so it should be a little bit better. It is better. Okay, good stuff. All right, so yay, technology works when you make it work. Do have a feedback announcement based on the stuff earlier today. I haven't got it up yet, but the stuff I showed earlier about, let me get my OBS and my Photoshops and all that stuff open. I have Hulk on my Tatas. See? Hulk and Tokidoki. And this is, yeah. There. I have like cartoon Tatas today. And I'm really honored that you guys are missing the Flash for this. It's the finale tonight, isn't it? Not that I care. That's one of those shows where I was really into it, and then they stretched out I'm calling her Schrodinger's Iris now, too long, and they made me not care anymore. Because, oh my God, I can't care if someone lives or dies that long consistently. You just can't. Oh, 2 more episodes after this. Oh, well, that doesn't really matter then. I'm pretty much watching for, I mean, Caitlin and Cisco are my peeps, but then I watch for Draco Malfoy. I mean, Julian. Tom Felton's good at everything he's in. No, the Flash plot was not moving so fast. And yeah, the Savitar reveal took so long, and it was actually who we thought it was going to be, and then the show faked us out, me and my husband, I mean, and I said to him like 2 episodes before, whoever Savitar is now, it's going to be a big disappointment no matter what, because they took too damn long. And so that's where I was at when they finally revealed it. But as I was saying, there has been a change already. Like I said, this is going to be a really interactive process, and you guys are going to be able to have your say in stuff. But I have made a change based on some things people said. The change is that, let me get this over here. No, I don't want to place this yet. Big monitor. There we go. It's based on this. The character episodes and the Cartman, the gamer Cartman in this one. As somebody pointed out that character type has been used as something of a cudgel against gamers in other things. And, obviously that wasn't my intent. I don't want to do that. So it's kind of a devil's advocate role anyway. And so I realized, God, I have literally the devil character, Beelzebub. So we are going to just paste that right over. Cartman is out. Whoops. Beelzebub is in. And there is much rejoicing. There we go. Make it pretty. There. Place. There we go. And there we go. And that is how the feedback process works. It's not going to be, whoops, I jumped back to the chat screen. Let me go back to camera. There we go. It's not going to be like this every single time. Somebody made a valid point. I obviously don't watch those videos, so I didn't, yes, the Antichrist. I like that, Synthetic Maniac. That was very funny. I'm going to remember that one. You guys all saw it here. But yeah, I was not aware of that. I used that as a joke in Gamer's Guide to Feminism, the gamer guy. Yeah, so that's that. That's how the process works. If somebody makes a valid argument, there we go. But somebody asked, have I played Chrono Trigger? And if so, what do I think of the female cast? I feel like they were pretty boss, and it would be nice to talk about them. It's been ages since I played Chrono Trigger. Wow. I remember them being like the guys. And so cool. I'll look into it for the show. These are things we're going to be discussing in the feedback sessions, because being open to this stuff and asking you guys and showing you guys all this stuff, it stops me from making those mistakes with, tone and intended message and all that stuff. And I think that's invaluable. Like, I don't know why people don't do it. The people say the light on the mic is distracting. I'll move it down a little bit. That's just the headphones. It's just the headset. It's gaming headsets. And you may notice that products marketed to gamers are kind of douchebaggy. But they work well. Rich at Review Tech USA and I had a whole discussion about my keyboard, because I have the Razer Turret keyboard, and light. But I got it partially because it doesn't have the stupid light up keys. And some people like the light up keys, and every so often I wouldn't mind, like, it's dark, but I touch type anyway, and so I feel for the little knobs on the F and the J to put there. But yeah, some people have said this is distracting, so I may cover it up. I don't know with what. But I like it because I feel like a Cylon from the original Battlestar Galactica, like, by your command, or as one person in the chat said, it could be an Infinity Stone. Yes. I think it's the flames of hell. Beelzebub trying to get out. The funny thing about the light up keys is my Alienware laptop, which I love to death once you get used to the quirks in it, does have the light up keys, but Momo is awesome at changing the macros on the keys. So all of a sudden, half my keyboard is orange and half of it is blue, and like he changes the colors. And so I don't like my cats being smarter than me. Yes, this is wine. It's a Niagara area VQA vintage. It's called The Conspiracy. And I got it because I thought, oh, not only is it tasty, but it is kind of, I was looking for like, there's Coffin Hill and all this stuff. Like there's some pretty morbid place names in Niagara on the Lake. It was, oh, 3 Demon Entertainment's in the chat now. I met with 3 Demon Entertainment today, guys. They're going to be doing some art services for Lady Bits, possibly some chibi art. But am I going to get trashed on camera with us? That would take a lot more wine than I bought. Yeah, everybody say hi to 3 Demon Entertainment. They are officially now a possible part of the Lady Bits team. So they are cool, and they love gamers and women and are gamers, and some are women. So yay for them. A lot of people are sleeping on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's my favorite comic book show. I tried to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I can only handle too many of one type of show at any given time. I love May and Coulson on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do. Sorry, I got interrupted. This is cool. I do shots of vampire wine with Red Bull. I call them Daybreakers. That's my drink. We used to do these New Year's parties that were very boozy. Little sleep, lots of booze, good times. Am I open to submissions from independent artists? You know what? We can do art pieces on the set. Why the crap not? If you guys are looking for exposure and you want to say you're a part of it, we can talk. Shoot me a Twitter DM or message me through the Kickstarter. Yeah, for sure. We used to do this drink. It was red wine and Coca-Cola. We called it Darkspawn Blood because it tasted like taint. And we chugged this horrible stuff after we did the Join Us Brothers and Sisters reading from the Grey Warden Oath from Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Origins. The second year we did it, we actually got somebody to etch the logo on the glasses, and it was a run-on thing of we did it, and then when people came up, what are you doing? So we can't tell you you're not a Grey Warden. We can only tell you if you become a Grey Warden. And then we initiated them into being a Grey Warden by by making them chug this horrible swill. And then they couldn't tell anybody until they became a Grey Warden. And it was this ongoing drinking game inspired by very nerdy stuff. Red wine over ice. That doesn't water it down, Synthetic Maniac. I think that's taint, the Darkspawn taint, guys. Not the space between the butt and the not butt. Like, taint gets a bad reputation. If you showered, taint doesn't taste that bad. Don't ask me how I know. This is becoming Beelzebub territory. Stabby. Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to kind of pool our pennies another time and make a gamer wine? That would be cool. Sorry, I missed a couple questions. That's true that watering down wine is a proper way to drink it historically when it was fortified and super sweet, but now it just makes it taste like a bad Merlot. There's another kind of taint. No, it's not, yo. It's it tain't the and it tain't the. When's the next Rich and Red? We recorded it today, and it's a barn burner. It's one of my favorite episodes so far. We talked about the outrage over the Wonder Woman um think thin bars thing, and we actually trace the origins of the company. I'm not going to say more, but it makes the outrage warriors look pretty damn dumb. And we talked about the study that said you should fap at work, and and the can't remember the first topic. It was Bill Nye. Bill Nye, his distribution company, or he self-censoring his old episodes about an X chromosome and a Y chromosome giving you a gender, and that was actually a really good discussion. It kind of spun out into a more general discussion of things for people that can talk about things like grown-ups. And that podcast is a lot of fun. We sort of think we know what we're going to talk about going in, but do I like budgies like the birds? Or is this something lewd? I have to ask. It is the internet. Yeah, I agree, Synthetic Maniac, that Synthetic Maniac's like batting 1,000 tonight. That Wonder Woman the movie is going to see the DCCU's first good movie. It's going to be the answer to Captain America. I am concerned about the release date because it is their answer to Captain America. The period pieces tend to do better at Christmas. Summer tent poles, they struggle, and I'm concerned about that because I loved the first Captain America movie. You guys know me and that period and pinup art and all that stuff. You know. People are offering Outrage Warriors as sacrifices to Beelzebub. That's awesome. And yeah, I had a budgie as a kid. It was the most vicious budgie in the world. Now that I know about that it actually was a budgie and not like some term for a henroid someone rubbed their dick on or something like that. I don't know. You can never trust words like that. And yes, I did see the thing about Wonder Woman's armpits being photoshopped. I did a whole video about that. But yeah, I had a budgie. Her name was Odie because she was really dumb. And she was the most vicious budgie in the whole world, because she was passed around to too many places. And so I was the only person that could put my hand in the cage without losing a chunk of it, because I do well with vicious animals. Those of you who have seen Binky's rather vocal opinions, I like nasty animals. The meaner they are, the more I like them. And so I do like budgies. I really like parrots. I've always wanted a parrot, but the problem is the pet sitting. If I have to go somewhere like E3, if I go, I'm not going this year because it's just the exchange rate is too ridiculous, and I'm working on this year. But yeah, if you go away. But I love parrots. They're so cool. They're just the coolest, like a bird that can bite your nose off. That's what I like. I like animals who can fight back, who you're not forcing to do things. It's pretty awesome. People are talking about Suicide Squad in the chat. Parrots also chew. Yeah, parrots do more than chew shit. Parrots, like, not literal shit. Like, they snap things. They can snap a finger in half. If it's, I checked into parrots and cats, whether it's a bad idea, and apparently they can cohabitate quite well. I mean, we had cats and we had the bird. We've had hamsters with cats. Animals who live together know their family. It's not the same as encountering an animal for the first time and them going, hello, lunch. Was it Saving Private Ryan, a big summer movie? I don't know, was it? It's just the general thing that it was a big deal when they moved Harry Potter to summer. I love cockatoos. Those birds have such personality. There isn't an animal I don't like except for chickens, because chickens are assholes, and cows because cows think my hair is grass and eat me. So cows can fuck off. But Yeah, otherwise, I love pigs. I love pigs. They're so cute. They're so awesome. Make those little noises. Um, but yeah, I like pigs. Any other questions? I've seen the inside of a wooden boat should completely apart by three parrots. Yeah, I can believe it. They're talking about Suicide Squad in the chat, and my opinions on Suicide Squad was that if they had actually made the Joker and Harley movie that it appears they wanted to make, it wouldn't have been. It would have been a better movie. But I thought that for what it was, I didn't hate it. It was essentially the plot of the original Ghostbusters. It was like the entertaining Ghostbusters movie of that summer, and it was shot. It was shot in Toronto. Um, and there were moments that were really slow. The cast was uneven. You could tell there was a lot of reshoots, but yeah, the I agree, Chrome Cake. I had trouble getting into Margot Robbie's um, Harley. I eventually sort of accepted it for what it was. Killer Croc for me was that it? The guy with it was him, right? That movie is such a blur. The monster. I always liked the monster, um, and I had a bit of an issue with that really highly sexualized thing, where Joker and Harley are at a party and he's like almost like pimping her out to the guys there. And I understand that they were sort of putting they were setting the characters, they were defining the relationship between their Joker and their Harley. I just think the reason that Harley Quinn is really freaking hot is there was an innocence to her in the cartoon. And they kind of took that away with the portrayal of her in, she's hot because she's psycho, but she's just kind of like a Harley Quinn, and she has that, okay, Mr. J, kind of thing, and you don't want that overt sexuality because it's almost like a Betty Boop thing, right? Like sugar pudding, and it's a sort of a cutesy thing that is on the line, and I don't know, but that is my thought of the fact. I liked it better than I thought I was going to. I heard horrendous things going in, and then it was, uh, then it was more Harley impressions. Should I take questions from the chat as Harley Quinn? More Harley. Everybody loves me. Do you love me more than Beelzebub? Maybe Beelzebub should talk like this. So my Cartman and my Harley in the same day are winners. That's pretty funny. And yeah, I thought that Margot Robbie came in at like 60% Harley when she should have been at like 120% Harley. But that's just my opinion. I mean, when you get somebody that is so good, well, that's a good point. Beelzebub's more like Ivy. It's true. When you get somebody like, and I'm blanking on the name of the voice, Arlie Sorkin, the Cartman and Harley actually aren't like Cartman is way up in the. Wait, I'm halfway through. You guys, TJ, come on. Cartman's actually in the back of the throat, and it is in the nose, but also in the throat. Whereas Harley is there. That was half a Cartman. Gotta switch modes. Hey, Mr. J, it's here and here. Cartman is the back of the throat and here. When you do voices, you figure out how to remember the voice by where it makes your throat hurt. I'm not kidding. You know what? You're right, Viennicus. The Enchantress, the take on the Enchantress, I wasn't sure about it first because I love the original Enchantress design. But the take they did for that movie was really good. And yeah, now Harley's Tara Strong. I still don't like Harley as much as Arlene Sorkin, but she does a pretty good job. Um, and it's funny because this whole thing with Harley is she was a character that originally created to make the Joker seem less gay. And then they gave her this whole sordid backstory. And I admit the tapes of that they did of Harleen Quinzel meeting the Joker for the first time were really chilling. And was it Arkham Asylum or Arkham City? I don't remember. And the chat said she's supposed to be a brilliant psychologist. She's actually not. From the continuity that I read, she slept with her teachers to get through school. So she actually was a lousy psychologist, which made her, easy pickings for the Joker. But it was Freddie Murphy. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, a Suicide Squad movie directed by Robert Rodriguez would be awesome. Brought up in the chat. I love Robert Rodriguez. I'm like the one person in the world that thought that his part of Grindhouse was better than Quentin Tarantino's. How does it make the Joker seem less gay when most of the time she's throwing herself at Joker and he's ignoring her? Exactly. I don't understand it either. It came from an episode where the Joker was supposed to jump out of a cake, and they thought that was too effeminate. And so they created this whole character that was going to jump out of the cake, and then jumping out of a cake happened with the Joker anyway, and yet we got Harley Quinn. And I agree, Julian, I don't think they've done it. I mean, okay. I always confuse Viola Davis and Angela Bassett. I don't remember which one it was in the movie. I think she did a good job, but the Waller isn't the wall if she's not the wall, And I'm fine with people being hired for the right performance as opposed to the right physicality. I say the same thing about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. She's not built enough for me, but she's great playing the character, and that is more important as far as I'm concerned. I remember, someone said in the chat, I always did think Batman and the Joker should be a gay kind of love-hate bad guy. I should not be doing this thing. This is a really funny overshare story. There is, if you really search the internet, Batman Joker / fiction with my name on it somewhere. And that is because somebody wrote this story and sent it to me to beta read. And I am totally sex positive. I'm like, whatever, a good story is a good story, a bad story is a bad story. And I was role-playing Batman and Nightwing on play-by-email RPGs at the time. There was a Batman RPG, and you kind of get a name. It's weird as these play-by-email RPGers. But they sent me this Bat / story, and I was like, okay, can I please rewrite the Batman dialogue because it's the wrong character voice? And she said, sure, absolutely. And so I wrote it, and she was so excited. She credited me by name. The problem is, back in the day, people used / stories like that before fanfiction.net went censored and outrage worry. But they mirrored those stories to link to gay porn sites. So this story, apparently I was a great gay Batman writer because it popped up everywhere. And I was like, get my name off that thing. And she tried to correct it, but there probably is still some occasional copies still out there with my name on it. And at that time, a guy by the name of Bradford Howe was randomly Googling people at work and reading out the Google search. And I was like, oh no, is that moment of, and that was the moment I learned that it's really better to share things like this so that, is it Timon or Timon? Sorry, no inflection, no emphasis on syllables on the internet. So you are both in the comics and have written / about the comics. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I was a pre-New 52 character in the Secret Six book. I was Scandal Savage's girlfriend. Gail Simone's a friend, and she wrote me saying, do you mind if I use your name and likeness as a lesbian stripper who's going to be involved with Scandal Savage. And I said, yes, Leanna's an excellent stripper name. What is my mother thinking? And that's what's so funny about these people that try to use stripper as a slur, because, you know, I'm not a stripper in real life, but the character that's based on me is a stripper because she was a Knockout lookalike stripper. Knockout was this New Gods character that was involved with Scandal and got killed in a crossover. And so they had Scandal be real depressed, and in good Suicide Squad form, they hired her a lookalike hooker to cheer her up. Yeah. Someone said in the chat, Aurora Darklord said, that was how I first heard of you, Leanna. My mind was blown when I discovered I was a real person. That's pretty funny. Yeah, so now we know in an alternate universe, Leanna's a writer of homosexual romances. Yes, in an alternate universe, I am Jane Jensen. Yeah, it was funny because people are like, oh, she's a stripper, and people use that as an insult all the time. And it's like, look, it puts me in a really difficult place because I am saying you're pro sex worker sounds like, oh yeah, I hire a hooker every weekend. It's not that. I just think it's a legitimate job, and the stigma behind it is what leaves it open to criminality and all that stuff, not the actual act. I mean, strippers and prostitutes and all that time and all that stuff. I don't think there should be anything shameful about it. There is nothing shameful about being a boxer or an MMA fighter. These are people who use their bodies for a living, and it carries a certain amount of physical risk. I don't really have an issue. You, Synthetic Maniac, you should talk to strippers. I know it sometimes gets weird for guys, but strippers are very, you know, if you go to the higher end ones, if you get a really good one, they're awesome to talk to. Strippers, showgirls, porn stars, they're all awesome. Hookers and blow every day. I just sort of do like double on the hookers so that I don't have to do the blow, because blow kind of scares me. Someone was a fan of Secret Six, so you know the character. We're talking about doing like a party for Lady Bits. It's sort of a yay, we're funded party. And so the first place I checked was Hooters, and they have Wi-Fi, so I'm trying to see how strong it is. It's either like Hooters or Tilted Kilt. How do you find a good stripper? Word of mouth. That's the best way. The chat says escorts are awesome to talk to as well, even if they don't speak much English. Escorts, that's part of the deal, right? I interviewed an escort back in the day. And it was a fascinating interview because she talked about, you know, it's all about providing a good service, and isn't that like anything else? Someone asked, any harassment from the Kickstarter? It looks like no. Other people might call it harassment. I don't. Being an asshole is not harassment. There's been some assholes, but mostly it's been great. The issue has been with, first of all, that one hilarious comment I posted today that was just, I'm the mouthpiece for a token female mouthpiece of 4chan. But the hilarious part is they actually spell FOUR Chan, and no one who knows anything about 4chan writes it that. There's been some people who have left nasty comments on, especially the Egg article, so the Gaming Ground, the GG. There were some nasty comments there, but it was just basically, I love you back, Redfield. They were reacting to the idea of OMG, yeah, feminist. They kind of stopped there. Their brains broke, and they zeroed in on this one line. I said, there's still some systemic stuff keeping women from games. I didn't say keeping women out of the games industry. I said keeping women from games. Like, nope, not reading anymore. It's going to be crap. What I meant by that was the stigma against games in general society keeps women from trying it because it's like, you know, there's such a, oh, this is for like loser guys, misogynist neckbeards, all that stuff. It sends the messages like women, I know just from me, when I'm in a room full of people, predominantly women, and it's women doing it to other women, like systemic does not mean men doing it to women. Systemic means system. And when the systems are the problem, they mean that women prop it up just as much as men do. And what I meant, you know, I go into like women only parties. I hate girls' nights because when you don't know nobody and they ask what you do, and I tell them I try to use as small words as possible. It's really you play video games? Oh, like you just play video games? It becomes, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. And I start wanting to twerk, you know? But it just, there is this double stigma on women that, as Bryant in the chat says, stops women from identifying as gamers. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. And they just ran with it thinking, you know, I was doing the old misogyner thing. If they'd read further down, that was, you know, not what I was going for at all. But it's funny, people take one sentence in a lengthy interview and, oh my God, Becky, look at her video games. They're just so hardcore. She hangs around with those gamer guys. What's with those gamer guys? She's just so, yeah, I can't think of, what's that? She's just so, I won't even say it because the way that ends, you can't say it anymore. But yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. When you actually look at systems and you actually look at structures, it's not about men doing things to women. It's the system doing things. And if we have a system that is systematically weaning women out of, you know, just, and the thing about systems is hard to see. You know, people see things like systemic and problematic and their hackles rise. Thanks, time to Japan. You're right. And this is the problem that I will never use the word problematic because there's no need to use the word problematic. Even something's either a problem or it's not, though I almost used it earlier today. I think problematic's an overused word and it's scope creep. Daniel, I know a penthouse pet with a psychology degree. That's not a prostitute, but it is, you know, sort of vaguely involved in sex work. She's awesome. Her name's Victoria Zadrock. She wrote a dating book. Smart lady. Amazing. But, you know, while problematic's a garbage word, systemic is actually a real thing. And because it isn't men keeping women out of games. It isn't. It's these social pressures as much as anything. And I'll save it for the show because this is part of it. But these are undeniable. You know, there's a reason that there's a lot more female game devs in Japan than there are here. There's a lot more female game devs in England. I was talking to one on Background today. And there are social system issues where that don't affect the Japanese games industry the same way they affect the North American games industry. And because that's so, you know, you get a bit of a benchmark of, well, women in Japan are perfectly interested in getting into game dev. You know, so there's something going on that point. And because people get so entrenched, they can't, you know, that's interesting. I think systemic with systematic, the latter implies intent, the former is more akin to endemic or widespread. Systemic is not the same as endemic or widespread, because something can be systemic but not endemic, because it functions like, if something is happening within a particular company but not industry wide, then it can be said to be systemic within that company but not endemic or widespread to the industry. So that's interesting, because the stigma against otaku in Japan is actually huge, Yosei says. Yeah, but otaku is not like a Harajuku girl. Somebody who hangs around the Akihabara district could be an otaku, but not necessarily. So yeah, there's sure, but Time to Japan says, what do you think? Do you think that all the media coverage of gaming is being filled with, all caps, white fucking males, the worst kind, who want women out of gaming, is scaring women away? I do. Not necessarily scaring away women who are already here. It's preventing women from trying it. It's a systemic issue that is keeping women from games, as I said. Yeah, we work with quite a few female designers, producers, and artists. Daredev says it's female coders that are rare on the ground here. And that is likely true, because there's a washout rate, there's a burnout rate in computer science programs at the university level. We know that, and there are universities that are trying to address that issue. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't women in game dev, right? I mean, so what? There's no female coders. That's not the same thing as female game devs. That's basically saying women aren't interested in art, music, or production, and we know that just isn't true, right? And James said part of it is in Japan, anime video games aren't seen as for children, and that's very true. It's Systemic Maniac says, I'm a white fucking male. How do I check my privilege? Is there like an email folder for it? Is it in my spam? It's in your butt, man. Check your butt. Your privilege is in your butt. See, we're talking about Japan now. And I talked about this in the last straight. At the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to do my stump speech on Japanese media now again. In North America, the presumption about media is that media reflects reality in North America. That's the presumption here. In Japan, and that means it tries to reflect the real world unless unless you're given clear visual cues otherwise, like Tim Burton or like David Lynch or something like that. In Japan, it is different. Japanese, for lack of a better term, junk culture, seeks to displace reality, and that's how we get things like this. This is not intended to be real. This is intended to displace reality. And so we can't analyze it through the same lens. And this is where the death of the author, oops, I screwed my focus up on my camera. This is where the death of the author thing gets into serious trouble, because if you're going from a close read literature perspective, all right, fine, knock yourself out with the death of the author shit. But if you're looking at it from an anthropological perspective, cultural relativism matters. And so if you're going to be analyzing Japanese games, you have to analyze Japanese games as Japanese games, not Western games with anime characters. So don't freak out because there's an anime called Panty and Stocking. It serves a different purpose. And the people are like, oh no, it's death of the author. My analysis, my postmodern intersectional analysis is valid. It's like, that's nice. You get laughed out of an anthropology course. Just saying. You know, it's different modes, and this is when people are like, you know, you're just like Anita Sarkeesian. It's like, no, she has an interdisciplinary degree. I believe my background was anthropology and English literature. Very different. I took a couple interdisciplinary courses, but I dropped them because I'm a bad feminist. Kidding. That's a joke. Um, um, I wanted to ask if the two young females of the game were actually intended to look younger. I have friends who look 12 but are 30. Talking about Dead or Alive Extreme. Um, they list their ages in the game and they're all 18. 18 is still personally too young for me. It says a synthetic maniac. Oh, wow. Like, synthetic maniac is contributing tonight. There's cultural relativism, yes, but there's also on occasion some things that cross cultural barriers and are awful no matter what culture you live in. This is true. And that's fair to point out. If something just doesn't work, then something just doesn't work. That's an artistic criticism, not a cultural or moral criticism. Somebody asked me what I think of bell hooks. As a person, she is, I think, deliberately abrasive. She has not had a relevant idea in some time, and she definitely got a lot of backlash from, you know, calling Beyonce a terrorist and things like that. That being said, bell hooks came up with the theory of oppositional gaze, which is very, very instructive when it comes to gaming. And I talked about, yes, the Korean, I will do a beach volleyball video. I intended to do it for tomorrow, but this is going to be the tomorrow video for people to watch. So I will do it for Thursday. I will do a beach volleyball video for Thursday. I promise. I also want to do some Grand Theft Auto campaign because I did a stream with the Hypernauts, and I only played Grand Theft Auto 5 for like 90 minutes, but I ran over 2 pedestrians, and there were many, many laws. Yeah, bell hooks, oppositional gaze theory. Oppositional gaze theory is very useful when you're looking at the reasons for like lewd content in video games. And what oppositional gaze talks about is that the evil, dreaded male gaze historically means something different historically to black men than it does to white, because you've got to remember in the cultural context, black men were not allowed to look at white women. They were beat up and lynched and run off and treated as essentially subhuman. And it was because of the inherent predator stereotype. This is in America. Well, so bell hooks postulated that gaze theory, as being an inherent evil, was racist. That black men going to white cinema was a form of oppositional gaze, that it wasn't just about being looked at, it was the agency of looking that was critical to the black male experience that was being left out of conventional gaze theory analysis. And it's like, oh, shit just got real in feminist thought. Now, you move that over to gamers, and a lot of it does apply, and this gets messy, and people go, like they get, you know, I need a character for that. Like, no, it's not that. You're being racist, and you're being colonialist, and all that stuff. But it fills the same role in gaming. It is not the gaze from a position of power. It is the gaze from a position of safety. And that's a very different paradigm, that gamers are often shy and they don't know how to approach women in the real world, but they're curious, and so they look at women in the privacy, you know, of their own gaming den. It's Whoa, comment just said male gaze is a thing that does exist. Female gaze also exists. I don't see why you keep talking about it as if gaze is not a thing. I just talked for 7 minutes about different types of gaze. I don't know how you're claiming. I'm saying gaze is not a thing. Comment before that, The Righteous Mind, Jonathan Haidt, yes, required reading. It is great. Yeah, medical gaze is another thing. It's funny. I'll say something and I'll apply the concept for what I say. Drink break. Is that with gaming, gaze gets messy. Because while there is the, gaze, the male gaze is not just about where the camera's pointing and where it's looking and everything like that. The gaze is also an element of creating things that are appealing to men and avoiding things that are going to make men uncomfortable. Now, yeah, there are some examples of games that do that. Other games deliberately put in things designed to make dudes uncomfortable. Exhibit A, Voldo from Soul Calibur, the cartwheeling naked Raiden in Metal Gear, the use of pornography as bait in Metal Gear. There is a lot of stuff in Japanese gaming, especially, designed to make men uncomfortable. Now that makes gaze theory kind of fall apart. The other thing about gaze as it's been described in video games is we all see that thing of a camera zooming in on a woman's butt. Male gaze, right? Well, that was the player doing that, not the game. And so that is not male gaze. That is not the game directing the camera. That is the player. So that is not male gaze. That is one-to-one. That is a particular viewer, and that's not... somebody mentioned Bayonetta in the chat. Bayonetta is a game franchise that deliberately uses the male gaze for effect because Bayonetta is a story told from the point of view of an anti-hero. She is an Umbra witch. Her enemies in the first game are the cardinal virtues. That was deliberate. And so that is an example. And I won't go too far into this. Won't go too far into this analysis because it's in the show. But, they use Bayonetta and they use gaze, the male gaze with her because that's part of the thing. And the other problem with gaze theory is it's heteronormative, right? The whole male gaze thing, it's heteronormative. Because I admit, if a woman's got a nice rack, I look too. How is that male gaze? And it and someone said they couldn't get past the male gaze in Bayonetta, and that's completely valid from a personal point of view. I mean, I think people need to be allowed to say it wasn't my thing without people jumping all over them. And yes, Synthetic Maniac is on fire tonight, talking about the monsters in Silent Hill 2 represent sexual guilt. That is actually going to be part of the Objectification episode, talking about psychosexual guilt in survival horror. The gaze is... And one person said, I would say your gaze is incidental and not the author's intent, except when she's arguing death of the author. Like, that's the thing. I am an authorial intent person. I think it is relevant. Drove my English literature profs crazy. And I think that it is... Now we're talking the difference between male gaze theory and targeted demographics, right? And these are not the same thing. Male gaze theory was more when Laura Mulvey wrote about it, she was trying to say, like, look, these so-called general audience things that are supposed to be men and women, that no, it's actually all catering to men. That's what Mulvey was going for. Dante Zub, you mean Dante's Inferno, the video game? I would maintain there's that God of War is a video game franchise that happens in a paradigm of the female gaze. Kratos spends the entire time being watched by Gaia and Athena. Spike that football. Beelzebub, breaking your mind, Stubby. But I missed some. Okay, if I missed your question, please restate it. I lost a bunch of stuff. Whoa! Do you think the development industry's obsession with university education is positive or negative as a university system turns off a lot of naturally talented people? I absolutely think that the obsession with university degrees is a negative. Creative people are creative people. Some of the most talented people in any industry I have been in. Oh, Dante of Devil May Cry. He's a bishi is the thing, and that's that we're going into Japanese tropes, which break gender, displace instead of reflect. So it's possible, but bishonen are sort of its own thing that don't kind of have a direct equivalent in Western culture. But the thing about the university education, I do think university educations are quite fetishized. You don't need a university education to be a good game dev. You need to make a game that people want to play. And I think the hiring process sucks because they want all the boxes checked. And so if somebody comes in with a crazy resume with all this success, an HR person may not hire them. Now, that being said, most hiring in video games from a lot of studios is done through nepotism light. Somebody recommends somebody through a friend, and that's how it's done. So, here we go. Hang on. How does a director shoot a female in a film in a sexual manner for himself compared to how often they do it for the audience? Do you think Quentin Tarantino thinks everyone likes feet? It's funny because while I was raising a lot, okay, Quentin Tarantino's foot fetish. And this is a huge difference between film and video games. So I'm a little uncomfortable talking about film. Just because there are better people for film theory. Being a director, having done it, requires an element of narcissism. I like it so other people will like it. The argument with gaze theory is that Quentin Tarantino can easily adapt to what men like because he is a man. The argument is that a woman directing is artificially adopting what men like. I think directors like Lexi Alexander would call bullshit on that. But that's the theory. Like I said, I don't do film. I do video games. So it's a very different thing. You can't go in and swing your dick around as a creative director in a video game the way you can on a film. What kind of headset is this? It is a MSI DS502. It is awesome, but the red light annoys some people. I like it. It's my silent light. It's my silent light. A lot of fan service and female gamers in the recent Resident Evil games. Yeah, I felt like that game got a bad rap. Everybody freaked out about the female costumes, and Chris was in some equally ridiculous things. Alternate costumes are just that. They're alternate costumes. Anybody that's gonna get bent over an alternate costume is just trying too hard. Sorry, someone in the chat keeps saying the red light can melt faces. Oh, I wish. Yeah, Julian, it's true that in defense of the average developer, so many companies want what amounts to unicorns. I get called a unicorn a lot in this business, and I find it funny, but at the same time, it's sort of like, no, I'm just a person. I'm just a gamer. Like, I'm really not that special. I am not a mythical creature. I am just a gamer who likes games, who happens to be female, but I think that I actually have more in common with other people who like the games I like than I am different. So yeah, I agree. It's interesting. One person said gratuitous TNA in video games hasn't really drawn me to any particular game. It's almost insulting that some studios engage in littering their games with TNA instead of tightening up their games. Aries, I really agree. I think that if the Witcher series had just been about boobs and naked Geralt, it wouldn't have caught on the way it did. The thing I give CD Projekt real credit for is they improve leaps and bounds from game to game. And they fully admit they didn't know what they were doing on the first one. They only half knew what they were doing on the second one. The studio was running out of money. The level of improvement is astounding in those games. And I don't think that, as much as people would freak out at the idea of removing the TNA because it seems like censorship, I don't think that that is the real selling point for the game franchise. There are other things going for it. And, you know, I didn't like they took the Desire Demons out of the Dragon Age franchise. I think that all that did was remove a female performance in the demons. But, you know, and therefore I don't think the Witcher franchise should take out, you know, I see the sorceresses as very different as other kinds of women in those games because they use glamours. But that third game, the switching creative director, astoundingly good. Yennefer's a great character. Triss finally grew a spine. And Uma, the ugliest man, was it ugliest man ever or something? Ugliest man or something like that. That little guy that, and he spoiler, but I love that character. He was that favorite character in the whole game. Like, oh my God, I want a little like pop art thing of him. I loved him. If someone wants to make a sexy game aimed at straight males, I don't see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with it either. I just think that people should be able to make games that aren't sexy games aimed at straight males without people freaking out. What do I think about things like RPG Maker? It's RPG Maker. I tried to play around with it. I didn't totally understand the purpose of it, but people have made some interesting stuff with it. It's a nice shorthand. Okay, question from Oron Darklord. When you say you're going to tell both sides and let us choose in Lady Bits, are you going to indicate at all which argument you believe or leave it ambiguous? I am going to do my best to leave it ambiguous. I am going to fight as hard as I possibly can for both sides. I was really awesome on the debate team in high school. Kind of scary. I managed to successfully argue the Boston Massacre from the British position. So yeah, I am not deliberately not trying to tip my hand as to which side I believe. Now, people are going to say, oh, you went easy on that side or whatever. The thing is, there are going to be brainstorming sessions in the feedback group. So a lot of the talking points are going to come from the community. They're not going to come from me. And that's why I'm trying to do it in character so that it's very clear that this is one character and another character. I really don't feel like what I think matters, especially a lot, because this is about disseminating information. And you guys heard Loki. Loki had to pee. My husband just let him out. But I hated back in the day, like people are mentioning Aerith and Tifa from Final Fantasy. To me, it was Fall from Grace and Anna and Planescape Torment. People fought over who is better for women and all that stuff. Oh, wow, people are actually arguing the Boston Massacre. You guys are awesome. But yeah, I it drove me crazy that people are like, oh, the Fall from Grace in Planescape Torment was better for women than Anna was, because Fall from Grace was dressed modestly and she was all about thinking, and Anna was, provocatively dressed and large busted and had red hair. I actually got kicked out of a women on games forum for mounting a defense of Anna as, hey, you're describing me. But there is no better or worse. Fall from Grace was a fucking thought hooker. Like, the whole idea was that they were both good, and you could have them both in your party. As someone in the chat said, it's not a pissing contest. And to be honest, for me personally, I do prefer to know what the speaker believes just to contextualize the argument, because otherwise I can't help but pick at it and try to figure it out. Well, that's a fair point, and maybe that's something for the backers only episode. Maybe at that point I will actually say, this is where I come down. In some cases, I honestly do not have an opinion. I don't know the answer. I see point counterpoint for different things. Like, for instance, like, where's the line between sexist moments in a sexist game? I think that's actually quite subjective, but maybe I'll feel differently when I write it. I don't know. The one that's really blown my mind is the how important are women on a development team, or what do they bring to it? That was an interesting one. That was really a paradigm shift for me. And yeah, the reason I picked a lot of the questions is a lot of the time I don't know. And so it's like, okay, this is cool. I can effectively argue both sides, because the reason I don't know is that I see merit in both arguments. And that's why I feel like anyone that says these are easy issues, they're not. They're really, really not. Zoob says in the chat, there is a difference between a canonically realistic sexual character versus pandering to men. I agree. And I agree on that point. But then there are people who say, well, who the hell cares? These games are made for men. No one's claiming Grand Theft Auto is made for women. So who the fuck cares if there's a woman on a development team? And I really can't disagree with that on a case-by-case basis. Go ahead, Drew. Like, just talk. Write what you want to write. This is a good chat. And I'm deliberately skipping some comments here, guys, because there are points I want to cover, and I feel like I've already given a little too much. But yeah, and that's really the important thing is, I think what I bring to the table on this series is I am definitely, bathing in nuance on these things. And So it's going to be very interesting to present both sides because I like to do that. I like to, it's called the Hillelian method, essentially. And it's going to be an interesting journey. I mean, it's going to be interesting to advocate for multiple people's positions, and it's an experiment. And of course, some people are never going to be satisfied, um, and that's fine. I mean, I'm well used to that. I really don't expect to please everybody. That's not my intent. Well, I present both sides in the taint taste debate. Odysseus, I think I already did earlier. I played devil's advocate. And some people are answering questions in chat. I am not ignoring you. I'm just not answering because I'm saving it for the show. That's interesting. One thing I find that feminists overlook is that a lot of games and shows, particularly animes aimed at men, will feature a mostly female cast, and mainly aimed at women will feature mostly men. I actually have a part in my college lecture that the patrons got part 1 of last week. They'll hopefully get part 2 this week if I can get it finished. I actually show a series of magazine covers for men and for women. So like a Cosmo for women, like Maxim for men, things like that. And they all have Kim Kardashian on it. The one cover that actually focuses on her face instead of her body is a men's magazine. So that's very interesting. Well, that's cool. One person said that, to be honest, if I heard people I depend on say, I don't know, I would have been scared, but as I watch your videos, it has encouraged me, jumped ahead, encouraged me to make an opinion for myself and state without feeling like I'm a bad person. Good. If I've given you that, I hope I include objectification of men in the one on objectification. Yeah. People will probably get unhappy with me for that. God of War is going to be a big one on that. What asked for related bits of something else? An investigation on waifu culture. Well, that's an interesting one for the back 7. There's actually 21 episodes planned, but I deliberately did not release all 21 because I wanted an opening for people to nominate questions. So I did make a note. Drew asked if I was a humanities professor. I'd be damn good at it. I was offered a teaching position once at the very last minute. I declined it because the course syllabus was already set and I didn't feel like it was honest. I didn't feel like I could actually teach, or anyone could teach the things they were promising. And so I turned the job down. I'd love to teach. I'd love to teach this way, but I don't have a master's or a PhD. Have I ever done a Tifa cosplay? No, I don't have the legs for it. Odysseus, I am aware of my limits as a cosplayer, and you need like legs that go up to your armpits for Tifa. My friend Trish Hirschberger does a badass Tifa. It looks so good. Someone asked, Azub asked, is it okay if I'm a fan of you and Anita at the same time? Yeah, of course. My entire point in doing this is to offer an opinion alongside Tropes versus Women. As much as I argue Tropes versus Women on points, if people like it, people like it. My God, free speech. You know, like they may give you a different answer. I mean, people who work for Feminist Frequency have said I'm harmful to women, but I don't have a problem with people feeling like Tropes versus Women has something to offer. It doesn't offer me very much, but I think you may have noticed I'm kind of a nerd on this issue. So hey, go for it. You know, like I'm not going to tell people what to watch and I'm not going to tell people what to like. All right, so people are talking amongst themselves. Maybe this is a good time to stop, unless somebody else has another question. Because if you guys want to keep talking, like just keep talking. I'm good with that. If everybody's asked all their questions for a night, Friday will be live again, so we can resume this. I may do a later afternoon slot on Friday to try that time. We got just as many people at 8 o'clock as we did at 11 o'clock, so that's really interesting. Synthetic Maniac. Man, another one. Like, ding, Synthetic Maniac wins the chat tonight. Tropes versus Women is the Feminist Studies 101 of Internet Media. It's very basic criticism for people who don't know video games that well. I would actually peg it at second year gender studies. Second year gender studies is that infamous quote that Anita made. Everything is sexist, everything is racist, and you feel the need to point it all out. I cannot abide second year gender studies student. And it's not fair because people like have to go through it, but damn, it's just like, settle down. Second year gender studies is like the wretched hive and villainy of the dork side. It is ultimate dork side. There is so much dork side. The dork side has a dork side in second year gender studies. And for people who don't know what the dork side is, it is the collectivist sex negative feminism popularized by people like Andrea Dworkin and Catherine McKinnon. It's anti-porn. It's anti. What happened to Momo Monday this week? Momo Monday this week was replaced by Momo's first short film, The 300 Backers, and it will be back. I did not play the 90s game Gender Wars. I was playing Leisure Suit Larry. What do I think of nude mods and naughty mods? Go for it. They're mods. The entire purpose of a mod is it's a mod. Go for it, right? Somebody said the bad stuff was 101 level. Karmakin, some of it is. 101, like first year gender studies, tends to be a historical overview with a side of indoctrination. Second year is super indoctrination. And then, because the idea in second year courses, first year courses, they want people to be easy because they want to milk first years and second years for money. When you hit third and fourth year, then all of a sudden they care about you actually earning your degree, and so they challenge you a little more. And so second year is really rough to push you out. But I don't like, I find that a lot of gender studies programs are indoctrination and rote repetition instead of actually struggling with the material. And I take real issues with that accordingly. I said, so with Lady Bits, will you discuss how the media that shows relationships between men and women, like drama, sitcoms, and anime, and how they influence real life relationships? That is television cultivation theory. I dealt with cultivation theory in Feminist Guide to Gaming. Cultivation theory has not been proven to actually work the same way in video games. That would be another video as a spin-off. Again, I am not a mass comm person. I am a video game analyst. I know my strengths. There are other people who are better on TV, better on film. So I'm being very careful to stick to my strengths. One person said gender studies is psychology light. Gender studies programs are a combination of psychology, sociology, literature, and I'm blanking on history, and poli-sci. And that's why things seem really cherry-picked, because they are. Whoops, chat jumped again. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh, so much. Don't you feel like the misrepresentation of women in games actually makes it harder for female games players, as games are now seen as being very, very sexist? At least I know for me it has. It's really frustrating. And I'm collecting other anecdotes from other women in the industry, so that's going to be part of the show. People are saying that the quote from Anita Sarkeesian was taken out of context. Yes, it was. Yes, it was describing a mentality, and I was describing the mentality too. That was not throwing shade on Anita right there. Zoop says, I think the point of presenting ways in which art is problematic is to be aware of flaws, not to tell people not to like it. I agree that's the intent. The problem is that the show is called Tropes versus Women. And if these tropes, as presented, are actually against women, how can anybody that appreciates and loves women actually like it? That is the conundrum that the way the the way it's presented leaves a mixed message. Someone says, Entertainment Wizard says, I wanted to discuss with you why I think Shenmue 3 was already 2/3 way finished before the Kickstarter happened, because that's how a lot of Kickstarters work. If you go online and research Kickstarter stuff, you have to have so much development work done before you launch. They expect you to spend money that you don't have to launch a Kickstarter. A Kickstarter, people ask for too little money. People misrepresent whether this is actually full funding or just moving it to the next development stage. It is, Kickstarter is, the Badlands of buyer beware. And that's why I'm doing these live streams, so that people can actually ask me questions, because I get why people are jumpy. James asked, what about the assumed circulation between women's muscle size and their sexual orientation? Do you mean like bodybuilders being treated as mannish? Is that what you mean? What exactly about second year gender studies, the Zabutman says, makes it susceptible to the dork side? It's just because second year is always the year in university where your major tries to break you. And all programs try to break you and reassemble you in its own image, and that's just when it happens. Have I got any favorite female video games? Favorite female villains in games, says Fort the Second. Yeah, I do. GLaDOS is great. There were a couple of good villains in the early Tomb Raider games. On some, and I know I am. Bodhi was a secondary villain in Baldur's Gate 2. She was awesome. There's like more good female villains in games. I mean, Jennifer Hale's breakout, Katrina, in Quest for Glory 4. She was a really great character. This will come up more in the show. Yeah, the Knave says academic theory was never designed to live in the wild. Unfortunately, a lot of people take it out of academics and try to apply it to reality. Yeah, there's a great Gloria Steinem quote that the problem with academia is that, they force you to use words that 90% of the population doesn't understand. It doesn't mean anything to them. So yes, even Gloria Steinem agrees with that assertion. How do I feel about The Last of Us porno existing, despite the fact the main character Ellie is like 14 in the game? Is it weird, or is that just me? Is it weird? Weird is a subjective term that... See, they do kind of sexualize Ellie in The Last of Us in the expansion. I forget what it's called, the one with her friend. So is it weird? No, because they kind of nudge you there. Now, I can understand the discomfort with her being a kid and put in sexualized situations. It's a similar thing with, Harry Potter fan fiction, that some sites will not allow even depictions of the Harry Potter characters as adults because they are teenagers for the bulk of the series. And this is a cross-cultural thing. The attitudes towards sex with teenagers in France are not the same as in Japan, are not the same as in the West. And so, well, it is personally not my thing. Um, Calling it weird is more subjective than I really want to be here. Um, I think that it's very different if it's, writing Pornovelli and her girlfriend, because the game kind of gives you that. Ellie Joel porn would be kind of nasty, so broad question. So he said, you mentioned being a history nerd. Ever consider doing some vids on history topics you like? Yes, I love history. The thing is, Anita Sarkeesian just did one about women in history. You will notice that the 3 episodes in the stretch goal that we're aiming for now do deal with female developers in the history of video games, so there will be some of that. So the Reapers in gender studies, yeah, you could say that. Whoops, chat jumped again. Oh no. Okay. No. Sorry, I'm falling way behind chat. I really apologize. So much stuff. Okay, here we go. There you go. Okay, somebody recommend YouTuber. Yes, I have a whole list of YouTubers I want to check out. Just haven't had a chance to do it yet. Have I heard of the game The Misadventures of Tron Bonne? No, I am writing it down right now to check it out. I make notes during chats like this because I like writing things. It helps me remember them. Does cultivation theory break down with the fragmentation of the media market? Great question, Odysseus. Yes, it does. Cultivation theory in the 80s was based on the fact that TV was such a unifying event. So it does break down with the advent of cable. That doesn't mean it doesn't apply. It's just a weaker force than it once was. One thing I find frustrating is how many assume if a woman has guns, they're into other women. Yeah, I have a bit of an issue with that as well, with the idea that if women want a body build, they're into other women. My sister did figure modeling for a while, and I mean, a lot of the women in bodybuilding, they have husbands, so that's all part of gender norms and gender roles, and yeah, I agree. It annoys me too. Commentary. It's not the commentary is not good. It's just a G.A. Rayner says, one big issue with gender studies is it's not something that leads directly to any kind of job. I would be inclined to agree with you there. I think that awareness of these sorts of things, I would be happier it being a part of another course based on a modality, based on an approach, and not kind of lumped in. Yeah, that's just my opinion. There are plenty of people who disagree with me. I am very careful to be an analyst of video games first an analyst of gender in video games second. I think that's super important, but that's just where I shift on that issue. Yose said, why is there such a divide between what gay men want in sexual content versus straight women? Well, the glib answer is because gay men are gay men and straight women are straight women, and the cultural contexts are very different. That is a long and complicated historical question that maybe when we have more time, we've been going for an hour and 30 minutes. It's a great question. It's just going to take a really long time to answer, and I'm way behind. Daredevil says, do I consult on content within game designs? Yes, I do. There's actually a discounted consulting session available as part of the Kickstarter for developers who want that. I admit I didn't expect anyone to take those or the personalized videos. I was told my business advisor that I should have a $500 tier, so I put it there. But yes, I do consult. I think it's important to get the consultants in early. It saves you a lot of do-over time. But I'd also recommend bringing a consultant back in on the playtesting stage to help you interpret the data. Those are the two sort of critical moments for a consultant to get you off on the right foot. And then, checking in periodically, but not holding your hand, and then seeing, the playtesting and being there and kind of interpreting that. Because playtesting is great, but a lot of people can't really communicate what they're thinking and feeling as well as a consultant. Because Rule 34 is what I usually say to stuff like that. I mean, look at Pokemon porn. I have not looked at Pokemon porn. Thanks. I'll take your word for it. The weirdest thing I ever saw was Cars porn. Like the movie Cars. Yeah. I'll leave it there. That's an interesting question. Zabatman said, how young do people start developing their sexuality anyway? There are people that say they knew they were gay all their lives, that they knew they were gay at the age of 5. It really depends on the individual. Some people start, masturbating and things like that when, they're quite young. Some girls are getting their periods as young as 9 or 10. Other people, it takes a while. So it varies on the individual. Okay, the chat just jumped again, I think. We're talking about disability stuff. I'll let the chat debate that on its own. Quoting Cowboy Bebop. Sent me a message on YouTube, like a private message, Emily, or like a comment. Oh, that might be nice. Talk amongst yourselves. Coffee talk. I'm verklempt. The Crown, I have not seen The Crown Miller #1. I've heard about it. I am watching too many TV shows right now. I can only manage. I will watch it eventually on the Netflix. A private message? Really, Emily? You sent me a private message on YouTube. All right, let me look right now to see if I have it. I do not recall getting anything. Oh, my keyboard turned off because I was sitting here yapping. No, not tuberculosis. YouTube. There we go. Yes, I do watch Elementary. I love Elementary. The guy who's the showrunner on that show is actually a friend of mine. He was the showrunner on Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda back in the day, and we met at a TV conference. And when he started doing Elementary, I'm like, damn. How do I find my messages? Read messages. Oh, yeah, you're a big help. It's the Creator Studio. You know, when YouTube started putting everything through the Creator Studio, YouTube got shit. Zoob M, do you think newer BioWare games are still good? Andromeda wasn't. Other than that, Inquisition was okay. There was a great game somewhere in Inquisition. It just got a little stretchy. I'm hoping it'll pick up. Will we get a review of Riverdale? Watching Riverdale means that's games I can't play, and I don't know. But I watched the first episode of that. It was awful, you know. Oh, here we are. Oh shit, there's a ton of this stuff. Show more. Oh, I got a message from Fart Crapper. Awesome. I got a couple Fart Crappers. Oh, Fart Crapper wants to know my opinion on poop hole sex. Awesome. And whether it should be a state-controlled activity. Oh, dear God. What rabbit hole have I fallen down here? I'm not seeing your message here, Emily, unless you've got a different screen name on YouTube. Zubas, does Mass Effect Andromeda have good characters, though? I liked, what's her name? Vetra? I liked Vetra. I like, Vetra was probably my favorite character on Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda, not Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. God, I'm trying to think. I didn't mind PP as much as other people did. The nurse was okay. Jal, I really liked. Oh yeah, Emily, please send it to my Facebook, because I'm not seeing it here. But yeah, those are the characters. So there were some good characters. It's yeah, just the game overall was just sort of yikes. There's all these messages I didn't get notifications for, and I didn't see. This sucks. Sorry, guys. Yeah, this is dead air now, isn't it? Do I ever think we're gonna get good hard sci-fi again, like Mass Effect 1? Cyberpunk 2077 could be just that, right? Um, it could be just straight up hard sci-fi. There is some stuff. I mean, yeah, it's possible. Everything goes in waves, so they may be dropping away from it for now, but it'll come back. Okay. Cora's a good character in Andromeda. She's a bit, she's a lawful character, but you can see the inexperience in the writing in Andromeda. And that was one of those things. We're going to write a lawful character, so they're going to be totally uptight. I'd like to see a game that asks you what sexuality you wanted to play as during the character creation and took that into the storyline for the romance part. Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting one, because then it's sort of like it's not everybody hitting on you. I find that kind of creepy. Sean asks, have I seen the Doom movie, and what do I think of movie adaptations of games anyway? I think that in the latter part of the question first, writers get psyched out by it being a video game, and it has to be a movie now, and they get psyched out. No, we have to explain everything instead of just telling a good story. I found the Doom movie fun. It obviously wasn't the greatest movie ever, and they had to make some compromises to not offend the Bible Belt, but I didn't hate it. I like Carl Urban, so he was in that, right? Yeah, I think so. How come European developers can get away with nudity, but Japan doesn't even try? Different paradigm. All right, I will check my Facebook after this. So, Zoob asks, since I mentioned Cyberpunk, what do you think of the accusations that Witcher treats sex like a collectible? It makes me reluctant to play it. That gameplay mechanic was removed after the first game. So that you don't have to worry about that in The Witcher 2 onward. Wow, Emily, I'm not seeing your comment here. Oh, maybe it's fan page. Yeah, here we go. Oh, there. Okay, I found your comment now, Emily. I will read and respond after that. Someone asked the same. This is in the FAQs about the name that's going to be on set. I am not going to just put people's names on set. There is going to be a survey after the Kickstarter closes that asks you what name you want included and what time is best for you to do chats like this privately. And the way we're going to do it is that certain times of day are going to work on certain episodes. And so you're going to be able to request your preference for certain episodes as well. That's the way we're going to work it. So we'll break up into smaller groups within the larger feedback session, and then we'll have communal ones every so often, and then you'll be able to hi Jaden in the chat. That's how we're going to be able to work it. We're going to like divide up into working committees. That's how it's going to work. Yeah. I would maintain the best video game movie, by the way, chat, is not a video games movie. I say it's the Rated R Dread. I think that was a great video game movie that wasn't a video game. Have I considered being a Silent Hill nurse and re-recording the lines over the video with vocal effects for that thing I'm doing? I guess that's a way to do it. That would be kind of fun. Oh, Zub, you like Saints Row 2? I love that one. And I agree. The thing that's great about Saints Row is it does immerse you in the world and make you start acting and thinking like the characters. Witcher 2 will probably squick you still, Zub. It's just based on the stuff you've said you liked in here. I would just skip right to 3. It's definitely the best designed game. There will be little things here and there that don't mean as much. If you there is stuff that I think is really going to bug you into based on some of the stuff that you've mentioned here. The Dread movies are comic book movies. Judge Red's a comic book. Is there any way to watch the later Ed and Red seasons, or have they been lost forever? There is a YouTube channel. I think it's called Ed the Sock Central. I'm not sure. I've said that game interactivity changes how cultivation theory is applied. Will that be true for VR as well, you think? VR is a tricky one. It's so new. One theory is that, yes, I'm doing the multiple theories again, guys. This is what I do. The one theory is that VR is just a mode of display and does not fundamentally change the way you interact with a game. The other is it is a new control schematic that people are still figuring out. So, following the theory that it's just a new form of display, it doesn't change the impact of cultivated effects at all. It's just a different kind of screen. The control mechanism, cultivation still doesn't apply. The concern for VR with people who are going to get bent on this is an operant conditioning handle, angle, and that's a little different thing. Emily asks, what are my thoughts on a world where crime is legal and controlled, and how can that be dictated in a story? Would that be an idea for feminism hard to handle as brutal stalwart? Well, when crime is legal, it's not crime anymore. I mean, you're talking about something like the Hitman games, where you're playing as a hitman, and if you want to see how it's handled, I'd say play the thing that I find so compelling about the Hitman games is that it's pushing you into this, player avatar relationship with a character that is amoral. When you talk about an objectified man, when you put a barcode on the back of Agent 47's head, it's sending a really strong visual symbol to the player. And so you are playing as a character that has had his humanity removed. That's an interesting one. If you're interested in sort of that experiment, those are the games I'd point you towards. G.A. Rayner says, hi, Alpha Byronius. Thank you for following me on Twitter. G.A. Rayner says, one thing I find really hypocritical in mainstream is that they focus so much on identity politics and yet ignore women and people of color who espouse ideas contrary to mainstream liberalism. That is what intersectionalism was supposed to fix. It really didn't, which is why I don't refer to myself as a intersectional feminist anymore. I've renamed myself a Mosaic feminist for that particular reason. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time, and I shouldn't. Here we go. Time to Japan is talking about a dubious paper about sexism effects from VR and applying it to regular games. I've tried VR porn. It's just porn. I mean, it was kind of giggle worthy. I mean, I felt like locked in syndrome with an erection. So I did coin the term mosaic feminist, as far as I know, Yosei. Um, the the funny thing about VR porn is that the body with the penis doesn't move when I moved. And um that was a really interesting thing to experience, because they let me um try both the male demo and the female demo. And the big fundamental difference between the male demo and the female demo is that the male demo is a silent protagonist, so there's no sound in your ears. The female version actually has moaning piped in, and that was done specifically because in their playtesting on their VR porn, they actually said some people felt like the female version was too much like rape. And it's practically the same scenario. The only difference between the male VR porn is it's like two women talking to you while you're standing there with locked-in syndrome, or lying there with locked-in syndrome. Whereas the female one, it's a guy and a girl. And so the female VR porn involved penetration. And so, yeah, it's, yeah, there's that sort of thing. Okay, Emily, well, in my writing, there is a case where you're being introduced to a world where females commit crimes and they also victims, they range. Oh, that's interesting. So you're getting out of the, yeah, it's the same thing in your Facebook message. I'll respond to this privately. I don't want you to talk about your own work anymore, because it's that's IP. You got to be careful. But yeah, interesting. I will recommend a story by an author who has been on my YouTube channel. She's a friend of mine. It's actually my book. I just realized as I'm talking about Jesus. Okay, this is going to sound so shilly for my own book. But there is a story in Wrestling with Gods, the science fiction anthology I did, that is a fairly violent lesbian monster fable. And it kind of touches on that. There is an element of brutality. There is an element of all that stuff. It's called The Moral of the Story. I needed a minute. But yeah, you might want to have a look at that one. J.M. Fry does turning fantasy tropes on its ear to make it more for women by women in a way that no other author does. She's awesome that way. Her book, her latest series, it's The Untold Tale, The Forgotten Tale, and the third one's not out yet. But she's basically, it's interesting. It's a meta story where a huge fan, like one of these academic feminists that has done her, feminist dissertation on a George R.R. Martin type character, ends up in the story. And it's the whole thing about it's real easy to sit there and, critique it from a feminist lens from the outside, but she's right in the story. She has a very different reaction to a lot of the things that's going on. And I thought it was just, it critiqued the writing of George R.R. Martin and but also a critique of academic feminism at the same time. But it's all a really enjoyable story that you can ignore all that stuff as if you want. It's a really great story. I think it's awesome. I keep pushing her to do a web series for it, but she's trying to shop it around and stuff like that, which I understand. But yeah, really recommend that series. Really recommend her work in general. Yeah, she's a good writer in that regard. And Yeah, people have to go now. I said we were going to go. It's been 2 hours, which is normally what we top out on that stream. Again, um, um, we're going to be back Friday, late afternoon. Okay, last question. Two last questions. And these will be the last ones. Fraulein and Nike. Leanna, does men falling behind at uni and being denied jobs now worry you? I think the anti-male sentiment question. I will answer the first part. I think that a lot of the culture war problems we are having right now are tied to economic desperation. And I think we definitely need an injection of sane economic policy to get us out of that. I think that when people are happy and working and everything's good and times are good and people have money to buy stuff, they fight less. And so I definitely think that's feeding. I have issues with the entire structure of higher education. Some of it affects women, some of it affects men. I think the entire phenomenon of junk degrees is a real concern. It's not problematic, it's a goddamn flat out problem. I don't think universities should be able, in good conscience, to churn out junk degrees. So, and I think that people can't learn when they're stressed to the hilt about money as well. So it's a very complicated problem that, again, you can't just you need an overall approach that's really going to look at this stuff and really fix the system from the ground up, because right now I think everybody's falling behind in different ways, but there's certainly, I mean, the dropout rate in high school is staggering for men, and I have read a lot of really interesting theories as to why. I have a colleague that talks a lot about the absolute demolishing of male rites of passage, and it's interesting stuff. He's actually a psychologist that works. His specialty is with male clients who sort of have a falling down moment in middle age, because all the build up. A lot of them are sexual assault victims and things like that. And talking to him was really, really eye opening. And that's all part of it. It all kind of bubbles up. The other question was, dope. Chat jumped again. Dope. Do I know of a good straightforward explanation of post-structuralism in plain language? Don't even go there. Just don't touch post-structuralism. The question I wanted to ask is, do I ever find myself able to truly turn off the analysis part of myself while playing video games or whatever? Yes. Every so often a game comes along where it's just, no, this is fun. And there are times I will say, I know there are problems with it. I don't care. I had freaking fun. It has to be a really great game to do that. The Saints Row games absolutely do that for me. They are just so damn dumb. But smart dumb, So the game's got really good dialogue and it makes me laugh. And I'm like, I was playing, like I said, Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Hypernaut stream. I'd never played the multiplayer before. It's a very different experience than the campaign. It actually made me see the campaign in a more a sympathetic light, just because the multiplayer was a lot more like Saints Row to me. It was a lot more fun, and I just had a blast. I wasn't really analyzing it. I was just playing, and what I do is when I'm playing a game, I actually do play it, and I just make little quick notes while I'm playing it to go back and analyze it later. I don't analyze while I'm doing it. I mean, gameplay mechanics, certainly I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's a neat little thing they did there. But that's enjoying the game. Analysis happens when I let my brain breathe. And part of the problem with the review process is it is so rushed that they don't give reviewers enough time to have that process. And that's part of the reason game reviewers get so cranky and unhelpful, is they're rushing it. Friday, can I sing Rebecca Black's Friday? Oh, man. I'll think about it. Okay, the stream is dying. So this is a good point this is a good point, I think, to wrap it up with Beelzebub's Trident. Yeah, I will be back on Friday, maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock. Try that time for other people. It's kind of in between. This was a very successful time. So, yeah, thanks, guys, for participating. We're coming in right under 2 hours. So awesome. See you on Friday if you can make it. Beelzebub. Stubby.